Now, in my previous video, I covered the first half of Season 2, so be sure to check that video out if you haven't already. Links in the description down below, or you can also click on the top right corner. With that said, let's continue to the recap for Season 2 Part 2. Continuing from where we left off, Otto confronted Subaru for not trusting his friends and always shouldering the burden himself. They both briefly fought, but Otto manages to help Subaru overcome his fears and he opens up to Otto as a beloved friend. With a renewed sense of resolve, they plan their next move and Subaru confronts Roswaal again, but this time, he decides to make a bet with him. If Subaru manages to save both the sanctuary and the mansion, Roswaal will give up his tome of wisdom and fully support Emilia with no ulterior motives. Roswaal agrees to the wager, but if Subaru loses, he will have to follow Roswaal and all the instructions of the Tomb of Wisdom. Afterwards, Subaru meets with Ryuzu-ama, requesting her help in liberating the sanctuary. He then meets with Emilia to talk about the trial, and after she falls asleep, Subaru manages to summon Park to help Emilia. Park then reveals that he has been trying to break his contract with Emilia so that the seal on her memories will be broken, allowing her to finally confront her past. Park then disappears and the crystal housing him breaks, which left Emilia upset and depressed. Subaru tries to comfort Emilia again and memories of her past slowly return. Later she was upset because Subaru lied to her and she feels abandoned by everyone, so she hides inside the graveyard. The next day, everyone tries to find Emilia, even Garfiel, but when he realized that Shima has gone missing, he goes to the room where the original Ryuzu mayor was stored, and he was confronted by Otto who was there to distract Garfiel. During this encounter, we get flashbacks of Otto's past, how he was born with the ability to speak to animals, how he ended up becoming a merchant and eventually being captured by the witch cow only to be saved by Subaru. That's why he genuinely thinks of Subaru as his close friend. Now back in the present, Otto is still keeping Garfiel busy and eventually Ram arrives to help Otto as well. Then switching over to the graveyard, Subaru was talking to Emilia and we see just how self-conscious she actually is, being extremely resentful about herself and that she wanted Subaru to reprimand her for running away instead of always coddling her. They both got into a heated argument and Subaru actually does get angry at her for everything, but he also confesses his love to her once again, stating that regardless of her flaws and the person she might become due to her past memories slowly coming back, he will still love her no matter what. And to prove his love to Emilia, he kisses her. With that, they both leave the graveyard to find an injured Garfiel waiting. It's here we learn about Garfiel's past and why he was so afraid of leaving the sanctuary. When he was still a baby, his mother left him and Frederica inside the sanctuary, but Garfiel misunderstood her intentions, thinking that his mother abandoned them because she considered them a burden. In reality, his mother wanted to find and bring their father to the sanctuary so that they can be a happy family. However, as his mother was about to leave, she died in a landslide which traumatized Garfiel, causing him to blame himself for her death and for being weak. That's why Garfiel was so adamant about protecting everyone inside the sanctuary so that they won't have to experience the suffering of living. That said, Subaru forces present Garfiel to confront his past and they both briefly fought. Subaru even used a new ability called Invisible Providence, which he acquired through his authority of sloth to uppercut Garfiel. However, it wasn't enough to defeat him, although when Patra showed up, Garfiel was finally knocked out. Garfiel eventually awakens and was now ready to face his past, so he enters the graveyard. He witnessed the moment before his mother left and finally learns the truth. Their mother didn't abandon them and actually loved him and Frederica. After completing the trial, he thanks Subaru for opening his eyes and decides to become his follower, referring to him as boss. Following that, Emilia enters the graveyard to face the first trial and tells Subaru that once the trial is completed, they will be having a discussion about their kiss. Also, we find out why Subaru left Emilia the previous night. He was doodling words of encouragement for Emilia inside the graveyard, which definitely made her happy. Her trial finally begins and she meets with Echidna who was quite rude towards her, likely because she was jealous of Emilia's relationship with Subaru. In any case, we see a memory of small Emilia inside a childhood home with a woman she calls Mother Fortuna who was actually her aunt. When Fortuna leaves to run some errands, some lesser spirits guided Emilia outside and she soon arrives at the Elven village, where she sees Fortuna talking to Beetlejuice or Juice about the seal within the forest. Now at this point in time, Juice was still a normal person, although we'll learn how he became insane later. Emilia then moves to her next memory. Small Emilia asks the lesser spirits to guide her to the seal, which turns out to be a large door within the forest, but realizing she can't do anything about it, she leaves. She'll bump into Juice and she quickly became friends with him. They both started to play, but Emilia was later caught by Mother Fortuna and it was implied by Juice that Emilia's parents might have died. However, Emilia's happy memories were about to end as Echidna tells her that the real trial was about to begin. With the arrival of Regulus Cornelius, the Archbishop of Greed, and Pandora, the Witch of Vainglory. They were apparently looking for the seal, and judging by Mother Fortuna's reaction, Pandora might have been the one responsible for the deaths of Emilia's parents. Juice then asks Fortuna to escape with Emilia while he takes in the Sloth Witch Factor to gain the Unseen Hand's ability to fight against regulars. Seeing this, Pandora congratulates and grants him the title of Sloth, although he rejects her offer, but he did eventually accept that title. To continue with the trial, Echidna changes location to where Small Emilia and Mother Fortuna were. We see her saying goodbye to Small Emilia. She would then leave Small Emilia in the care of Archie while she returns to help Juice, and when she says that she loves Emilia, both Small and Big Emilia break down crying. As Archie was running away with Small Emilia, we see how her self-hate first developed as she blames herself for what is happening and that her existence seems to only bring misfortune to those around her. Archie tries to comfort Small Emilia, but he was attacked by the Black Serpent, which starts to consume his body, so he orders her to continue running and don't look back. Meanwhile, back over at the fight, Regulus defeats Juice and was about to kill him when Fortuna arrives to save him. And seeing their love, Pandora forbids Regulus from killing them, so he kills Pandora instead, but she returns unharmed. She then uses her authority to rewrite reality and send Regulus away. Juice and Fortuna are prepared to fight Pandora, but she manages to evade them because in the next scene, Small Emilia arrives at the location of the seal to find Pandora there waiting. She asks Small Emilia for the key and that she will leave everyone alone if the seal is broken, so Small Emilia, wanting to protect everyone, manifested the key. She was about to unlock the seal when she remembers her promise to Mother Fortuna, so she refuses Pandora. That's when Mother Fortuna arrives to stop Pandora, but no matter how many times she kills the witch, Pandora simply reverses her own deaths. Juice would shortly arrive as well, but Pandora used her powers on him, causing him to mistake Fortuna for Pandora and he accidentally kills her. This was the catalyst that causes Juice to have a mental breakdown, and paired with the negative effects of the Sloth Witch Factor, he finally turns into the Beetlejuice we know from Season 1, and honestly, his backstory is just tragic. As Mother Fortuna was dying, she tells Small Emilia one last time that she loves her, which enrages Small Emilia, so she releases her full magic power to continuously kill Pandora. She eventually loses control of her mana, causing the surrounding area and everyone in the Elven village to be encased in permafrost. Small Emilia starts to freeze as well, and this was how she became trapped inside ice for 100 years. And because Pandora can no longer unlock the seal, she departs with a broken Beetlejuice, but before she left, she used her memory manipulation ability to rewrite Small Emilia's memories, making her completely forget about the existence of the Wish of Vainglory. Emilia finally confronted her past to overcome the first trial, and even though she still regretted not being smart enough against Pandora, she was still satisfied that she kept her promise to Mother Fortuna. She also boldly claims that she will save everyone that are still frozen and create a world where everyone can live together happily, so Echidna responds by calling her selfish, egotistical and a hypocrite, but Emilia was unfazed by her insults. She then awakens inside the graveyard and remembering Mother Fortuna, she briefly breaks down crying. Now, as for what happened with Subaru and the others while Emilia was doing the trial, he was able to learn about the memories of the original Ryuzu mayor from Ryuzu Shima and the truth behind the sanctuary. We see that long ago in the sanctuary, Ryuzu, Beatrice and a young Roswaal, technically his great ancestor, had a very close bond with one another. We also learned that Roswaal used to suffer from mana accumulation, but he was saved by Echidna, which caused him to fall deeply in love with her to the point of being obsessive. That's why he became Echidna's student, to be close to her, and he was actually the one that helped her to develop the formula and theory behind the barrier that now covers the sanctuary. They were actually quite close to finishing the barrier and they were only lacking the core needed to activate the barrier. However, before they could fully complete the barrier, Hector, the Warlock of Melancholy, was approaching the sanctuary and Ryuzu volunteered herself to become the core while Roswaal went out to delay Hector. Unfortunately, Roswaal was powerless against the Warlock and was about to be killed when Echidna arrives to confront him as well. As they were fighting, Beatrice finished the preparations for the barrier, but because she wasn't told that Ryuzu would be sacrificing herself, she tries to convince her to stop. Ryuzu thanks Beatrice for her friendship and after saying goodbye, she fuses with the crystal which activated the barrier. It's unknown what happened afterwards and we switch back to the present. Having told her story, Shima returns to rest accompanied by Ram and Delma, while Subaru along with Otto and Garfiel confronts Roswaal. Subaru would tell Roswaal that they know the truth about the sanctuary and that his game has been turned upside down, so he advises Roswaal to surrender but he still refuses to yield, stating that a few minor changes won't affect the grand scheme of things because his feelings for the past 400 years are far stronger than Subaru, who is just a nobody if he doesn't rely on his return by death. Also, it seems that because Best Boy Otto was so insignificant to the future that his presence had greatly altered the game, it was for this reason that Otto earned the respect and recognition of Roswaal. Having said that, Roswaal was still unfazed. He tried to provoke Subaru by scrutinizing Emilia and both started to argue about who was right. And even though they were somewhat similar in nature, being people that would cling to the one they love and forcing their ideals upon them, there were still clear differences between the two. Subaru believes in strength and moving forward, while Roswaal believes in weakness and staying the same. Subaru also doesn't blindly love Emilia, and he sees her for her true self, loving not just her positive traits but the negative ones as well, even confronting Emilia with the truth when it's needed. Thus, Subaru departs with his friends and they're getting ready to head for the mansion, although this time they have help from Garfiel. Before they leave, Subaru gives Ram a crystal and asks her to handle everything. That's why when Emilia leaves the graveyard, only Ram was there to greet her and should inform Emilia about Subaru's plan to save the mansion. Ram was also surprised to see Emilia's resolve, and it was the first time that she sincerely respected her, so Ram begs Emilia to save Roswaal from his delusions and return him back to the correct path by winning the royal selection, to which Emilia agrees. Just then, Roswaal arrives to sarcastically congratulate Emilia while trying to break her spirit, but his provocations were useless. Emilia ends their conversation and enters the graveyard once more to begin with the second trial. Roswaal departs as well and headed towards the crystal powering the barrier to activate a spell that will bring snowfall and attract the great rabbits. However, Ram followed to stop him, and we learned that Otto was the one that managed to convince Ram to help them defeat Roswaal. In any case, the crystal that Subaru gave Ram actually housed Puck inside, so the both of them start to fight Roswaal. But going back to Emilia, the second trial will show her a present timeline when Mother Fortuna and Jules haven't died, and even though she was happy seeing them together, she knows that the world is fabricated. Archie soon appears to convince her to stay, but she doesn't want to, knowing that she still has to fulfill her promises and dreams. Then Archie was revealed to be Echidna in disguise, and Emilia thanked her for showing her such a beautiful scene, which causes Echidna to tear up and claiming that she hates Emilia. This also means Emilia has completed the second trial and she exits the graveyard to find the villagers from Arlem and the inhabitants of the sanctuary waiting for her. They offer their gratitude to Emilia and she re-enters the graveyard to face the final trial. Over at the mansion, Petra was running away from Elsa and Frederica managed to protect her, but she was losing against Elsa. That's when Garfiel arrived to save his sister and tells her to get Ram to safety while he handles Elsa. Meanwhile, Subaru enters the Forbidden Library to find Beatrice and gave her a speech about not letting a book and a 400-year-old verbal promise dictate her life. When Beatrice asks Subaru to be that person, he rejects the idea and calls her dumb, so he gets expelled from the library. He then regroups with everyone and they encounter Meili and a rock piggy, so Frederica stays behind to fight her while the others run away, but they were stopped by Meili's guilty Lau. They will be chased by the demon beast, but they eventually kill the creature by burning it, which causes a fire to break out inside the mansion. Subaru then asks Otto to take Ram and Petra to safety while he goes to save Beatrice. Switching to Garfiel, they are still fighting Elsa, but soon Frederica and Meili interrupted their battle. Meili attacks Garfiel with a rock piggy, but he manages to kill the demon beast and he continues his fight with Elsa as Frederica captures Meili. In the end, Garfiel finally kills her by dropping the corpse of the rock piggy to completely crush her. Back at the sanctuary, Emilia's third trial shows her multiple futures where disaster befalls everyone and it briefly overwhelmed her, but after seeing the silhouette of Subaru and Ram, she manages to calm down. Overcoming the visions, she was transported to the Castle of Dreams, but Echidna was missing because Emilia apparently hurt her feelings during the second trial, so she doesn't want to see her. Echidna will send Minerva to deal with Emilia's final trial instead, and hearing Emilia's answer about the future, it made Minerva cry and it seems like she used to know Emilia's mother as well. Regardless, Emilia manages to complete all the trials and discover a final room inside the graveyard which houses the corpse of Echidna. She will destroy the spell powering the barrier, and when she exits the graveyard, there was a blizzard outside, so she meets with the villagers and asks them to take shelter inside the graveyard while she heads over to the location that Puck has indicated for her. Going back a bit before the blizzard started, Puck and Ram were still fighting Roswaal, and Ram would confess her love for Roswaal, which greatly angered him because he wanted her to seek revenge, not love. The battle continued and Puck was able to distract Roswaal long enough for Ram to steal the Tome of Wisdom, and she managed to throw the book into the fire. This enrages Roswaal and he blows her away, heavily injuring her, but when he came to his senses, he gave up and he tried to heal her injuries. Despite being defeated, his spell to bring snowfall still managed to trigger, so Puck leaves to delay the activation of the spell. Now in the present, Emilia soon arrives at the crystal and discovers that in order to fully disable the barrier, Shima has to fuse with the crystal, but before that, she gave Emilia the new crystal that houses Puck. Shima then fuses with the crystal, disappearing with it, and with the barrier down, Emilia along with the Ryuzu clones left to find Roswaal and Ram outside. The Great Rabbits soon appear, so they quickly escape to the graveyard. Back at the mansion, everything was still burning as Beatrice is briefly reflecting on her past, and she seems to still believe that Subaru is the someone that she has been waiting for. Subaru finally finds the library again but was kicked out by Beatrice numerous times. He makes it back into the library one last time and tries to convince Beatrice to live with him. However, Beatrice doesn't want to trust him because she's afraid of losing people she cares about again, but Subaru rejects that, telling her to live with him through all the guaranteed lifetime of tomorrows instead of fearing the what-ifs. As the mansion was about to be destroyed, Beatrice finally accepted Subaru's offer, escaping from the mansion and arriving just in time at the sanctuary with a badass entrance to help Emilia fight the Great Rabbits. Because Beatrice formed the contract with Subaru, he was now able to use the same spells as her, so they both begin attacking the Great Rabbits and trapping them inside a large enclosure. Emilia then lifts the Great Rabbits up into the sky, followed by Beatrice using Shamak to encase them in darkness, which causes the rabbits to start cannibalizing one another. She also sends the remainder of the rabbits into an isolated space, trapping them inside forever and winning the battle. After the battle, Beatrice and Roswaal pay their respects to Echidna and she learns that the current Roswaal has always been the one she knew, which made her quite happy. Outside the graveyard, Emilia and Subaru have a not so serious discussion about their baby because apparently Park hasn't been properly teaching Emilia how babies are made. Jokes aside, Subaru and gang all beat up Roswaal for obvious reasons and to reassure everyone that he will not betray them, Roswaal placed the curse seal on himself that will destroy his body and soul if he ever goes against their bet. So with everything resolved, a party was held and Subaru was finally knighted by Emilia. They later have a conversation about the future on the balcony and Subaru promises to always help her no matter what. They have one last dance and thus ending Season 2 Part 2. Having said that, we are finally done with the rezero recap and I definitely enjoyed Season 2 Part 2 more. But what about you? Did you like Season 2 and are you ready for Season 3? Share your answers down below. Season 2 really showcased a lot of character growth and it definitely felt good seeing how Subaru and Emilia overcame their problems. Hopefully you enjoyed my recap and if you did, feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel for more anime content and hit that notification bell to stay up to date with all my content. Thanks for watching and as always, stay safe everyone.